bureaucrats and health bureaucrats were sending you home to languish in unemployment, they were giving themselves huge bonuses. And this didn't just happen in one bureaucracy, it really happened across the whole of government. And that's been evidenced in order paper responses across the board. Now, it also happened in several government agencies, not just in ministries. For example, new release from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation today notes that the CMHC Sunshine List and bonuses ballooned during the housing affordability crisis. So while you're struggling to get by to pay your mortgage, the bureaucrats who are in part responsible for some of this are seeing their bank accounts get bigger and bigger. Now, joining me about this new press release from the Taxpayers Federation is Franco Terrazzano. Franco, this is your work. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, look, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, another Crown corporation that is rewarding itself for failure with bonuses and pay raises. Get this, folks, the CMHC, according to its own website, has one objective: housing affordability for all. Well, guess what? Over the last 3 years, either you couldn't afford a home, or if you do have a home, now you're worried about your mortgage payments going through the roof. Now, if that's the objective for the CMHC, in what world does it make sense for them to be handing themselves $93 million in bonuses and pay raises when Canadians can't afford a home, or during a pandemic when the taxpayers were losing their jobs, taking pay cuts, when many small businesses were using the credit card to take out a line of credit just to keep their lights on?
You know, and you looked at this a couple of different ways. So you looked at it from the viewpoint of the Sunshine List. So employees making over $100,000 a year. They have 931 of those staffers in 2022. You also looked at the bonuses being paid out. And I've looked at this data in other agencies and ministries, and I can't see what the metric is for paying out these bonuses. I don't know if they're performance reviews. I don't know if it's just you showed up at work while everybody worked remotely. I can't figure out how they're paying these bonuses. Tell us a little bit about these bonuses, and have you been able to get to the bottom of what the metric is by which they measure a bonus for a government bureaucrat?
No, I think if you show up to work with the shoes tied, you're getting a bonus if you're working in the federal government. But seriously, folks, Sheila, I'm so glad you brought this up, that it's across departments. It's all these different Crown corporations that are rewarding themselves for failure. Let me give you a couple examples. Okay, the federal department bureaucrats, they can't even meet half of their own performance targets. Not even meeting half of their own performance targets. They've been getting bonuses. Now, in the real world, you don't meet half of your own performance targets, your boss shows you the door, your boss doesn't hand you a big fat bonus check. Let's look at the Bank of Canada, right? They're the group that's in charge of keeping inflation in a low and around 2%. Well, if you've been living anywhere outside of a rock in Canada the last couple of years, if you've gone to the grocery store, you've gone to the gas station, you know that the Bank of Canada failed to do its one and only job, yet it handed $45 million in bonuses and raises to its central bankers. Let's look at the CBC for a second, right? Everyone's favorite state broadcaster. Well, during the pandemic years, it handed out $80 million in bonuses and raises to its employees. But here might be the craziest example of all, Sheila. Destination Canada, a Crown corporation that is tasked with marketing Canada's tourism industry. During the years of 2020 and 2021, our borders were shut down. People couldn't come to Canada for tourism. Many restaurants shut down. Many others in the hospitality industry shut down. What does Destination Canada do? It also handed out bonuses and raises during those pandemic years.
It's shocking because, you know, you cite some data in your press release here that 1/3 of Canadians indicate that they think the government isn't doing enough to deal with the affordability crisis, and that many Canadians who don't own a home, I think it's 2/3 of Canadians who don't own a home, just now have given up. They feel like that goal is completely unattainable. And yet the government bureaucrats whose job it is tasked to make housing more affordable for Canadians, they're taking home $12,000 annual bonuses. It's
Crazy.
outrageous.
Crazy. If their one job, according to their own website, is housing affordability for all, In what world should they be patting themselves on the back with these huge bonuses that average nearly $12,000? And again, the sunshine list, the number of bureaucrats at the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation taking home more than $100,000 in annual salary, you have 931 of these bureaucrats. I mean, if the government was really worried about making life more affordable, they would build more homes, and you could do a lot more to make houses more affordable by having 931 carpenters rather than 931 overpaid bureaucrats, right? The last thing that we need in Canada is more overpaid government bureaucrats. What we actually need in Canada are more homes being built.
That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.